things just got more intense ahead of the Oilers' opening round matchup against the Los Angeles Kings in Los Angeles on Monday. All that more today on Oilers Digest. But first, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, folks, we are 13 subscribers away from 2,900 on the road to 3,000. So hopefully we can hit that milestone by the end of the first round, and maybe, just maybe, 3,000 by the end of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But if you haven't hit that button already, make sure you do so for any and all Oiler content here leading up to and during the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's still a few more days to go, but folks, it is Groundhog Day once again. It's the Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings, the fourth year in a row in the opening round. But this is the first time the Oilers have started the playoffs on the road since 2006 against the Detroit Red Wings. And folks, we all know what happened in that series. So hopefully lightning can strike twice again. But again, the Kings, one of the better home teams in the NHL this year. For the Oilers to, have a shot of taking the series, they're going to have to take a couple in Los Angeles at the Crypto.com Arena. But yeah, Game 1, Monday, April 21st, 9 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Mountain there on Sportsnet against the Kings. And even more bad blood. You saw those two teams, face each other 3 years in a row, and it'll be year number 4. But of course, some words being thrown between both sides there. Again, the schedule, just looking at that, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The first 3 games there doesn't get back to Edmonton until April 25th there, but we can all see Philip Deneau in Game 1 when he said, I think they have their B squad. That game last Monday, the Oilers just trying to get through that game without any injuries, but the Kings trying to lay a beatdown and get in the heads of the Oilers before the playoffs there. So lots of intensity, lots of bad blood, lots of words being thrown around there between both the sides there, and Corey Perry going, well, we're not trying to hurt anybody, we're just trying to get through this game without any shenanigans brewing up before the real test begins. But Zach Hyman, when it comes to the Oilers in their status of all being banged up, said we didn't look too wounded on the ice today, we're good. We're obviously missing a big piece on the back end with Matthias Ekholm, who will be not in the lineup for the opening round. Hopefully it's just the opening round, but we just have to pull through, and everybody just has to step up. And then of course, the Oilers, with the playoffs not having the salary cap, the Oilers did recall Derek Ryan from the Bakersfield Condors after, the whole cap gymnastics there of trying to get a lineup, to ice a lineup there in those past couple games there with the salary cap. And the Oilers having to use emergency recalls, and they're being suspended. Lots of hoops to jump through, but with the playoffs, they make it so much easier with no salary cap there. But with the Oilers in pairings at the practice in San Jose, as they stayed in San Jose after their last regular season game on Wednesday there, because they weren't too sure when their series was starting. It wasn't worth it to go back to Edmonton for who knows how many days before, again, heading back out west to California there. But the lines in pairings here from Daniel Nugent-Hopkins of The Athletic. Of course, these are not cemented. These are not 100% confirmed for Game 1. This is just to get a feel on how the team could potentially look, with Zach Hyman back on the top line after returning from injury, with Connor Brown and Connor McDavid there. Got my Connors mixed up here, folks. And then Vasily Podkolzin and Leon Draisaitl back in the lineup with Victor Arvidsson, Adam Henrique, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Jessica being demoted from the first line there. I would have preferred to see, Skinner, McDavid, in Connor Brown. But you know what? Anything to make that Oiler bottom 6 a whole lot stronger there. And Matisse Yamark, Kasperi Kapanen, and Corey Perry. You need some extras there. Trent Frederick wearing blue. Might have been non-contact, or just, an extra jersey. I'm fairly certain it's non-contact. And then Max Jones, Derek Ryan, and Evander Kane wearing gray. Again, this could be either, scratches, last extra, or again, more non-contact. But it's interesting that Evander Kane would not take any line rushes here on a normal line. Instead, he's the unofficial 5th line. And then on the back end there, with no Matthias Ekholm, Darnell Nurse, and Devin Bouchard, Brett Kulak, and Jake Wallman, who looks like he is ready to go. And then Ty Emerson and Josh Brown, with Cam Dineen and John Klingberg as the extra 2 defensemen, with no Troy Stecher. Not too sure on his statuses. Kris Knoblauch did not give any updates there, but it's very interesting to see a guy like Josh Brown over Cam Dineen. I'd rather see, an Emberson-Dineen pairing, or Dineen-Emberson. But yeah, not too sure what Knoblauch and the rest of the coaching staff are thinking with Josh Brown, because Josh Brown doesn't really bring a whole lot to the line. I'm sure LA is a big, mean, physical team, but Josh Brown, other than throwing hits, what exactly does he do? Your guess is just as good as mine. But when it comes to Knoblauch, on Jake Wallman says we hope that he's ready to play. We'll find out how he reacts after the skate, trying to play little mind games here with the LA media and the LA Kings. But Wallman, crushing that, says nothing to worry about. And that, combined with him skating with Brett Kulak, indicates there's a good chance he'll play in Game 1 on Monday. They're just, again, taking a look at the D pairings without Ekholm. You're going to have to see some big performances here, especially from that top pairing of Nurse and Bouchard. I mean, that's a very solid top four. You kind of have to, shelter that third pairing there, but Nurse and Bouchard used to eating up minutes there. They're the games where the Oilers only had 5 defensemen there. I mean, their last game against the Sharks, all 5 defensemen played more than 20 minutes, so they are more than capable of doing so. You just gotta hide your weaknesses, but I think the Oilers could work around that very well there. When it comes to, the Kings and the Oilers, not much of a rivalry when one team always wins, but McDavid says this is the 4th time, and every time we come in with the same mentality, it's a new series. There is no carryover. We don't start up 2 games. It's the first team to 4, and it's a challenge every time. They make you play a really solid game. It takes a really clean, hardworking game to beat them, and that's what we're going to have to be prepared to do, and that's what we are prepared to do. Of course, he was not happy about the fact that the media was, sort of viewing the team as underdogs, and, this old, beaten-up, veteran-laden team that probably couldn't make it past the first round, but McDavid says, hey man, we're ready to go. We are completely fine. Again, aside from, number 14, but the rest of the team stepping up with the absences in the regular season, and they are ready to roll there. Knoblauch, his second playoff run as Oiler head coach, says, I have some idea of what's going on for myself. It being my first year with last season, you don't know what the intensity about the intensity and what the series are going to be like and the adjustments you have to make. So for me, a lot has changed, but I look at our guys and the confidence and how they feel, the excitement of hitting the playoffs. For me, I see the players in the same state of mind that they were last year. And when you have McDavid and Draisaitl on your team, especially playoff Draisaitl, where he just turns up the intensity a million notches there, I sort of view him as like a Claude Lemieux in the playoffs without all the dirty stuff. They're just a guy who elevates his game when he absolutely needs to do. When it comes to comparing these two teams here, Los Angeles and Edmonton, of course, LA has no game breaker there, but they have, lots of players where they can, chip in the lineup and fill a very necessary role there. Adrian Kempe, Anze Kopitar still doing his magic there in his old age. Kevin Fiala, who always kills the Oilers, and we'll probably see that again in the playoffs. And then Quinton Byfield and former Oiler Warren Foegele there. Meanwhile, Edmonton, of course, offensively, just dynamite with Draisaitl in McDavid. Evan Bouchard, hopefully he can turn it on again in the playoffs like he did last year. Phenomenal run for him. And then Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman. Those last two players, Nugent-Hopkins and Hyman, they could be potentially big X factors there for the Oilers offensively. Of course, if they don't show up, there's a pretty good chance the Oilers will not show up to the second round there. It's more than McDavid and Draisaitl. You need everybody chipping in at this point of the year. And when it comes to, the projection between these two teams from The Athletic, it is a 50-50 split. That's how evenly, matched these two teams are. One team has a weakness, one team has, more strong suits. They are very evenly matched for each other. They're the yin and the yang in the Pacific Division there. And just comparing these two teams throughout the regular season, the advanced stats, the Corsi for percentage, both teams in the top 5. Goals for percentage, the Kings with first place. The Oilers, not so much there. They had all the offensive chances created, but just scoring was not their forte for the most part this season. Expected goals, though, both teams, again, top 4. The Oilers, third place, and then save percentage in shooting percentage. The Oilers in the bottom half of the league. Meanwhile, the Kings third and 8th place, respectively, there. So the Oilers will need some saves, and they will need to finish. Yeah, that's Captain Obvious speaking, but sometimes the obvious is, what they exactly need to do in this series. You need a big series out of Stuart. You need him to play Darcy Kemper. It's a daunting task, I know, but I think he's more than capable of it. You saw him in the last 2 games against the Jets and the Sharks. The mentality, his mindset going into this one needs that to be perfectly sharp against a very dangerous Kings team. Special teams, though, is a different story. The Oilers 11th place with the 23.7 power play percentage. You saw them be top 5 years, a bunch of years in a row, but this year they're starting to look a lot human. Meanwhile, the Kings useless on the power play. Of course, I'll probably eat my words at the end of this series, but the Kings just not as strong. Even, adding Andrei Kuzmenko, they're just not as dangerous as they once were on that power play. And the Oilers 16% on the penalty kill percentage. Hopefully they can, garner the 2024 playoff run penalty kill, but that's not likely. And then the Kings, very defensively minded, 8th in penalty kill percentage and goals for per game. The Oilers 11th, Kings 13th, so evenly matched there. Meanwhile, goals against per game, the Oilers 14th and the Kings 2. I do believe there's a stat, if the Kings score more than 3, I think there's something like 41-0-2, which is just ridiculous, but that's just the way they play. When they get a lead, they lock that down. Meanwhile, the Oilers, when they get a lead, who knows what could happen. I mean, Joker's wild with that. But just taking a look at the potential Kings lineup there, of course, I looked at, the lineup from last game. They're completely different as they were resting players, but it should look something like this. Andrei Kuzmenko, Anze Kopitar, Adrian Kempe, Kevin Fiala, Quinton Byfield, Axel Ferrier, Warren Fogle, Philip Deneau, who will probably see the Draisaitl line for a good chunk of the season there, Trevor Moore. Meanwhile, on the fourth line, Jeff Malott, Sammy Hellenius, and Alex Turcotte on the back end there. There was no Drew Doughty, but Drew Doughty will be in the defensive lineup here for Game 1 for the Los Angeles Kings. Mikey Anderson, Brant Clark, Vladislav Gavrikov, and Jordan Spence, and Jacob Rivera, and Kyle Burrows there. But the big X factor here for the Los Angeles Kings, a man who's owned the Edmonton Oilers in the crease with Darcy Kemper, with a 13-4-4 record in 21 games, with a goals against average of 2.22 and a save percentage of 9.24 versus the Oilers in his career. The Oilers and Kings offensively, defensively, I'm not really worried about the Kings at all on that. In that regard, it's just Darcy Kemper trying to solve Kemper. You saw Kemper shut out the Oilers twice in the last 2 weeks against the Oilers. Sure, they didn't have Draisaitl for one game. They didn't have McDavid or Draisaitl for the other game. But it's just if you give Kemper that confidence against the Oilers, it's very hard to crack. As you can see there, the Kings, when it comes to expected goals against and goals for, they teeter the line between boring and good. They're a very stout defensively team, but also good at the same time. They can score as much as they can stifle other teams offensively there, and that'll be a big test for the Edmonton Oilers, especially in the first round. But hey, at least it's not like a Stars Avalanche series where that should be like a Western Conference final type series. But the Oilers and Kings, I'm not really worried about it at all. There's just solving Darcy Kemper there. You see the Kings had the advantage during the regular season, taking 3 of the 4 games. One was an overtime win, holding McDavid and Draisaitl at 2 points each, and outscoring the Oilers 12-4, including 3-0 and 5-0 wins in the final month of the season. The only Oiler win during the season series was a 1-0 win back on January the 13th there. So we'll see. We'll need Street Skinner to have another strong performance like in that one. But that is it for today's video, folks. Have yourself a happy Easter, lots of chocolate, exciting holiday weekend, and lots of playoff hockey to enjoy later on today. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are you worried about this Kings team? Do you think the Oilers are too old, potentially to beat up No Ekholm? Is that a game changer? Let me know down in the comments. And folks, have yourselves a great rest of the Saturday. 2 playoff games today should be lots of fun. Take care. I'm Matt.